President Trump, rather, is looking to flex his influence in the Peach State.
Oh, they have a baby.
The future is built by us, by a powerful community as you here in this room.
Excuse me, can I ask you why you're detaining this journalist?
Can you put the phone away, please?
President Trump and the Georgia primary, what it is and what it definitely is not. Title 42 and the twists and turns of that in the legal system, the World Economic Forum, and an American journalist detained at the World Economic Forum. All that and more coming up on this episode of Daily Caller Live. My name is Jobob. Daily Caller Live starts right now.
3, 2, 1.
Here we go!
That might be the only brown guy on earth named Jobob.
That is actually her name, Jobob.
Live from the dingy bunker, completely cut off from the outside world, except for you fine folks. My name is Jobob. Thanks so much for tuning in to Daily Caller Live on today. It is May 24th, the year of our Lord 2022. Brand new you in 22. Brand new year that's halfway through. So if you haven't started on the new you thing, you get started. I swear I'm going to stop making that joke someday. But I don't know. The new you in 22 thing sounds, it's alliteration. It sounds fun on the rhyme. I don't know what I'm saying. Here, we're going to start just right off the bat here with President Trump. If you're not familiar or if you don't know, there's a Georgia election happening today to decide pretty much everything in the November Georgia general election. So this is the primaries. The GOP is running against the GOP. The Dems are running against the Dems in Congress, the Senate, the governor's race, all of the big races in Georgia. So here is what the Georgia primary is not, and here's what the media is saying it is, and here's what it actually is. The Georgia primary is just a primary. So let me rephrase this really quickly, because we're talking about the Georgia primary. There's a lot of focus on President Trump. What the Georgia primary is not is a referendum on Donald Trump, a referendum on the former president of the United States trying to flex his political power. That's what it isn't. But here's how places like CBS are covering the current primary in Georgia. And we'll explain why it's not what they're calling it in just a couple seconds. Watch this.
And in Georgia, the tension could not be higher. President Trump, rather, is looking to flex his influence in the Peach State as he weighs a possible run for office in 2024.
They're saying President Trump looking to flex his political muscle, because here's what's happening. David Perdue, failed Senate candidate. I believe he was a senator running for re-election, but I'm not. I brain farted here. But David Perdue is also running for governor against current Republican Governor Brian Kemp. Donald Trump endorsed David Perdue way back when, and Pence endorsed Brian Kemp. Now, feelings aside about how you feel about Donald Trump or how you feel about Pence, because people have varying degrees of feelings on these two, this is just straight politics. Like what you saw in that CBS clip, this is President Trump trying to flex his political muscle. It's not what's happening at all. I don't understand this idea of localized elections being a national referendum on the president or the sitting president or whatever it is at the federal level, because that's not what these things ever are. Watch a little bit more from this CBS clip. A guy talking about, I think he talks about total repudiation of Donald Trump. Watch this.
Well, if you believe polling in this state that has consistently shown the governor ahead, the governor's probably going to win this thing and get above the 50% needed to avoid a runoff. It'll be a pretty strong repudiation of the former president who all but forced the former senator into this race.
Yeah, so again, a guy saying this will be a pretty strong repudiation of President Trump. No, it won't, because guess what? President Trump is not on the ticket in Georgia. Brian Kemp and David Perdue are. Now, the polling, if you want to look at it like this, and not to get into the weeds on the whole political thing, I'm so tired of when it so happens that Governor Kemp wins the primary tonight, which is going to happen, you're going to see headlines all over the place saying Georgia voters hate President Trump. That's not what's happening. They're voting for the candidates that are in front of them. President Trump is not on the ballot in Georgia. And also, considering the fact that Kemp is ahead by 14 points in the most recent poll that took place yesterday. In a Fox News poll that took place last week, Kemp was leading Purdue 60 to 28. Donald Trump has since not made any other personal endorsements, hasn't made any appearances, hasn't done anything with Purdue for the last several weeks. So when you hear articles like this is again from CBS on their website. Kemp has been one of Trump's biggest targets since the 2020 election. Trump blamed Kemp for not doing enough to help his efforts, yada, 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 yada. The Trump-backed challenger is going to backfire. Again, this election is not about President Trump. And all of the elections that go through Congress, that are the Senate, that are governor races, the endorsements maybe have something to do with things. Now, we talked a couple weeks ago about President Trump being like 50-1 or something in terms of like his endorsements. And maybe that makes a little bit of sense, but the broader line here is people who are on the ballots are the people that the other people are voting for. The voters are voting for the people who are on the ballot. So what I'm trying to say is that tomorrow, when all of the headlines, and you're going to see them from the Washington Post, from the New York Times, from CNN, from CBS, says President Trump endorsed candidate loses big in GOP primary, know that that's not the case. Brian Kemp has been up the entire time. A sitting governor has an overwhelming advantage over anybody else, especially in a primary. It's not even going to be close, and it's not a referendum or a repudiation on the former president. I'll stop ranting about that because I want to get to this. This is actually kind of interesting. I'm not a big dabbler in this global cabal of people. Maybe we can get into why I'm not super. If the World Economic Forum and the people that took over that run the Economic Forum and that attend the Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland, that's happening right now, were to rule the world, we would all be in very, very bad shape. It would be utter chaos and nothing would go right. They are socialists and globalists and would ruin the entire planet. Having said that, I'm not a big believer that these slappies can get their act together and actually pull off any of the crazy ideas that they're talking about. However, they still are meeting in Davos. If you're not familiar with the World Economic Forum, it's when all of the bigwigs, the business insiders, the politicians, the world leaders gather in Davos, Switzerland to talk about how they want to rule the world. 2,500 business people, 2,500 politicians, 2,500 total, not like 25 of this and 25 of that. 2,500 of the biggest, most powerful people on the planet go to Davos every year for the World Economic Forum, and they discuss the strategies of how to globalize the world. A lot of people think that's a big deal if, as I just mentioned, they were going to actually put into practice all of their ideas. We would be in very, very bad shape. But getting 2,500 people of the heads of states, the biggest politicians, the biggest business people in the world, all to be on the same page, fantastically difficult, and I don't think they can pull together because the egos in this room are unmatched. That being said, watch this from this guy named Klaus Schwab, who put together the World Economic Forum, and him talking about, well, what he's talking about, COVID, among other things. Watch this.
But we also are at the tail end of the most serious health catastrophe of the last 100 years, COVID-19, and we have to reinforce our resilience against a new virus possibly, or other risks which we have on the global agenda. The future is not just happening. The future is built by us, by a powerful community as you here in this room. We have the means to improve the states of the world.
Okay, so he goes on talking about COVID-19 and then talks about what happens if there's a new variant. We haven't really talked on that big WHO story. Maybe we'll get more into that as it comes to fruition. It kind of didn't really pan out like a lot of people are planning on it. If you don't know what I'm talking about, there was a big World Health Organization treaty that a bunch of people were signing on that gives the World Health Organization actual power, which they don't actually have right now. Us in the United States probably shouldn't have to be worried about that because we signed this clause that said none of it's enforceable. Maybe we'll get into the weeds on that a little bit later. But back to the World Economic Forum, Klaus Schwab is talking about, well, what if there's another virus? How will we react? Will we be able to stop it by shutting down the world again? As he likes to do that sort of thing. And then talked about stoking the egos in the room of we have the power and the ability to change the world so long as nobody gets in our way of our massive globalist agenda that they've got going on in the World Economic Forum. Again, like I've mentioned, and I've said this a bunch of times, if the people at the Global Economic Forum, the World Economic Forum, were to enact their policies across the globe and make us a globalist society, that would be bad for your everyday citizen. They would get rich. It would be full of corruption, and socialism would pervade itself across the entire globe until the entire globe system collapsed. It would be terrible. However, I'm not of the belief that 2,500 of the biggest egos on the planet are ever going to agree on a direction and do anything. So in a lot of senses, to me, at least, unless something changes drastically, this just seems to be a meaningless debate society, kind of like the UN. Having said that, that leads us to this, which I thought was freaking interesting yesterday. Jack Posobiec, if you don't know who he is an American journalist who is in Davos, kind of an agitator, and he'll say as much, but was in Davos for the World Economic Forum, was eating lunch with, dinner, I'm not sure what he was eating, with a couple of friends outside of a restaurant in Switzerland when all of a sudden gets surrounded by the police. Jack, again, admittedly, and I guarantee he would tell you this too, is somewhat of a provocateur sometimes. I don't think he's disingenuous at all. The guy believes strongly in the things that he believes on, stands on some pretty solid morals. But at the same time, knows how to stoke the fire a little bit, is in Davos for that reason, to expose people for what they're doing and what they're trying to do as this globalist agenda is trying to take form. But he was surrounded by Swiss police, which I thought was just really a bigger story than I think a lot of people are making out to be. Watch this video. Again, kind of creepy and eerie. Guy just eating dinner and all of a sudden surrounded. Watch this.
Still there?
Well, I was just waiting for Campbell today. I don't know. I don't think so. It's pretty heavy.
Excuse me, can I ask you why you're detaining this journalist?
Can you put the phone away, please?
Can I ask you why you're detaining this journalist?
I don't answer your question.
Is it we're not
put your
able to
phone away.
report here?
Please put the phone away.
Okay. Can I ask you guys
Yeah,
why
you
you're
can.
being
Can you?
detained?
Yeah, can you please stop filming? Then we can talk.
Why do I need to stop filming?
Because I ask you to. It's my personal right because I don't like to be filmed,
Okay.
and it's a right in Switzerland. If I don't want to
But
be
can
filmed,
I ask why he's being detained then? I won't point the camera at you then. I won't film you, but I would like to know why this journalist is being detained on public property.
what's detained? Can you explain
How
the
come
word?
he's being surrounded right now? Is he allowed to leave the area?
We're just making a normal police control because it's WEF. Everything is
Is there
very
a reason
sensitive.
he specifically was targeted?
There is a reason because we have to have a reason to
So
control a
What was the
person.
reason? What was he doing?
I don't have to tell you that. Why are you asking me that?
Because this is, he's, there's many journalists here, and I want to
Yeah,
know why
I know.
he specifically is being detained.
There is a reason, but everything is clear now, and we're about to leave in just a few seconds.
Thank you.
Okay? Yeah. Could you please now? Can I ask you please to delete your
That's just a weird situation. Obviously, there's There are reasons why you would arrest people. Jack, I don't think fits any of those reasons, but just an odd and different environment in Switzerland. One, the police officer engaged with her, which is not a thing that you would do. If you actually had some sort of reason to detain somebody, you don't have to talk to the media. But it was pretty clear that I don't think they had any good reason to surround Jack and do whatever it is that they were doing, which got me curious into the idea of free speech. And I found this article, which I thought was really fascinating. Again, free speech is not ubiquitous across the world. The idea of free expression of ideas is a staple in a lot of especially developed societies, but not entirely held up to the standard that the United States has. This is from a Swiss newspaper. It said freedom of expression refers to the ability of an individual or group to express their beliefs, thoughts, and ideas and emotions about different issues free from censorship. But is it an absolute right? Certainly not. This is again in Switzerland. A recent example was in Switzerland last year when a referendum on the limits of free speech saw citizens vote 63% to 36% in favor of a law banning anti-LGBT discrimination. We'll get to that in just a second. Another referendum in 1994 ruled that homophobia is a crime no matter of opinion. Meanwhile, various rankings, the Swiss media are free from editorial and government interference, but they expect to adhere to the penal code, which prohibits racist or anti-Semitics as well as homophobic speech. Okay. The obvious qualifier is that we shouldn't want those things in our society. We wouldn't want people to be racist or anti-Semitic or whatever it is, discriminate against a person because of their the way they choose to do life. Nobody wants that sort of thing. However, when it becomes law and infringes on a free speech, then the question gets asked, who gets to decide that? That is the biggest problem. Unless it is a specific and tailored threat of violence, unless you're shouting fire in a movie theater, you're allowed to have opinions. This idea of quote unquote hate speech and banning anti-LGBT discrimination, that's all fine in terms of we don't want that in the society or we don't want it to be prevalent, but who gets to decide what that is? If I make a joke about Elton John's big old glasses, is that anti-LGBT discrimination? I don't know. Who gets to decide that? Which is the main problem with the idea of censoring any sort of free speech around the world, especially in Switzerland. Now, you probably have a little bit more context as to why American journalist Jack Posobiec was surrounded by Swiss police. Because there are some pretty gray areas when it comes to free expression. Seems like a pretty easy concept to grasp, but you gotta have a lot of people that don't understand that notion. So there's that. Yeah, we'll leave that there and get to this. This I think is this is going to be even more interesting than what we thought it would be at the very beginning of this. Title 42. You familiar with Title 42? Title 42 is the rapid expulsion of illegal immigrants based on the public health system. Now, there are so many different minds on this of how to think about, do we still need to expel people from the country based on COVID because COVID is not really a thing anymore? But also, we should expel people in our country because on the basis of coming into the country illegally, so there's that component. And will the Biden administration do anything to expel anybody from the country? There's that component. But there's more twists and turns in this Title 42 situation. Title 42 was put in place by the Trump administration to say, hey, if you come into the country illegally, we can just kick you right back out based on this whole health pandemic thing. Title 42 was set to go away last month, which a bunch of people were very worried, including Biden's own staff, that this was going to explode in illegal immigrant crossings, which it already has. But they thought it was going to explode even more because Title 42 is taken away. Then it got pushed back. Then the CDC said, no, we're not going to do it anymore. Then they said that we're going to do it again. Then a judge said, no, you can't do that. But then that judge was hit with the CDC saying, well, the science doesn't back up why we need to do that again. And then, holy cow, it's just a big old cluster. I had this big article that I could read, but that kind of displays all of the back and forths with the Title 42 situation. But that's pretty much it. It was set to expire. Then the CDC pushed the expiration date back. Then they said it's going to expire again. Then a judge decided that, no, you can't expire. Then the CDC is now saying, well, bottom line here, I don't understand why we can't just stop people from coming into the country. Everybody agrees on that, by the way. This is one of those wedge issues that pretty much every American agrees on. Not every American, but like 80% of Americans agree that, yeah, we've got to solidify a border. We got to pick a number of how many immigrants we want coming into the country every year and then seal the border off. Democrats agree, Republicans agree, independents agree. Doesn't matter where you are on the political spectrum unless you're like extremely to the no immigration ever, which is crazy, or to the everybody can immigrate here regardless of anything, then that's also crazy. Pretty much everybody agrees that immigration needs to be under control in the United States. Now, I wanted to play a couple of videos from Daily Caller's own Jorge Ventura for no other reason other than it's the best. Like, just watch this video. What other reporter is wading through the rushing river other than Daily Caller people? I just watch this.
We're here in Piedras Negras, and right behind us is the Mexican State Police. This is their show of force. We're going to walk in and kind of show you here. Today is also the same day that Texas Governor Greg Abbott is set to arrive in Eagle Pass to address the Title 42 ruling and the relationship between Piedras Negras and Eagle Pass when it comes to protecting the border. For one more time here, this is the show of force from the Mexican State Police here on the Piedras Negras side. So we'll keep you updated from what that press conference from Greg Abbott will look like today and what he will say on the decision from the federal judge to block Biden administration from lifting Title 42. We'll keep everyone updated from the latest in South Texas, but also here in Piedras Negras, Mexico.
All right, so I got the clip wrong. The next clip is the clip that I was describing. But that clip was apparently now the Mexican police or government or military, I'm not entirely sure what branch of law enforcement they are, in Mexico is also now trying to stop people from coming to the United States because it's a problem for everybody. So there's that. This is the clip that I was talking about, just literally in the water.
And the current is picking up here in Piedras Negras and Eagle Pass. Oh, they have a baby. We have a little boy over here on top of the shoulders.
Yeah, it's gnarly that we're just letting this happen as a society. Anything that happens with Title 42, we'll continue to keep you updated on that. Maybe you're not super interested in that, but you are interested in keeping the border secure because literally everybody agrees that the border should remain secured. But that's going to do it for us today. President Biden is still, or I think he's coming back from Asia. It was really interesting. There wasn't a ton of footage or clips from either Joe Biden in his Asia trip. We like to bring that sort of stuff to you, but not a lot of stuff came out from there. Maybe we can talk about that tomorrow. Maybe we can talk about the media's publishing of the president and whether or not that's a good or bad thing, because there, of course, you want to see what the president's doing at all times, but at the same time, at this point, it could be considered that the president talking and getting to a microphone is a national security risk, which is a crazy thing to say and actually believe. But I don't know, maybe we'll talk about that tomorrow. That'll do it for us today. If you haven't already, give me a follow on any of your social media platforms on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Getter, Instagram. I'm going to add that. Maybe that'll be my project today. Add a Chiron that has all of the Getter, Twitter, Insta, all of them, and go from there. We'll see you tomorrow, same time, same place. If you get, I saw a couple comments of where do you get that hilarious shirt? It's at my Instagram page. Shoot me a message on any platforms. I'll send you a link. The Capitalism Rocks, Schoolhouse Rocks. It's a play on nostalgic cartoons. yeah, shoot me a message and I'll make sure you can get a link to that. We'll see you tomorrow, same time, same place. God bless America.
Okay.